Hello everybody, and welcome back again for the fourth episode of our series, which, don't forget, works as a course. We're here again with our friend Adam. How are you, Adam?
Hello everybody, I'm well, thank you. How about all of you? You're absolutely right about this being a course. So far we have studied and seen a lot of things, haven't we? It's true that not everything is easy to learn, but it's all very interesting and useful, isn't it, Karen?
Yes, it is. Do you know what we're talking about today? It's probably the most important topic so far. Yes, the other topics were all important too. We looked at the Constitution and things that concern our daily lives, such as our residence permit, work permit, and the rules and laws that underlie life here in Italy. But this time we're looking at a special matter as it concerns the future of our children, school education.
School? Yes, I know what some of you are thinking. School's just about getting good marks and teachers. What's more important is work, isn't it? Well, yes, but think for a second about the tools we use to work with. Yes, there are technical tools like drills and computers, but even more important are the words we use in a language, in all the many different languages that we speak.
Indeed. But how do we go about learning these words and language?
Well, naturally, you'd think that we learn them at home with our family, our parents, mother, father, and grandparents. Well, that's true, but where do we go to learn it for the better? Not to mention other languages and Italian too, as well as maths, computing, and so on, as well as history.
Here's an important thing connected to what you were talking about, Adam. These things at school, we learn them together with other subjects and with other people. While we're learning and studying, we get to meet and know other people too. People from cultures and countries all over the world. We don't just learn ideas, we learn languages. You learn in a better way with others by listening and conversing with them, hearing how they speak. Above all, we have the chance to see people different than us. So the first thing we learn at school is how to live together, living together with many other people.
I would say that there's one other important thing to learn while we're at school. We learn, or we should try to learn, just how to organize ourselves when we have to understand and learn something. You could say learning to learn, right? It seems rather abstract, but that's how it is.
Yes, that's important. But aren't we forgetting something? We still haven't spoken about the future of our children, of our babies. Schools are their gateway to the world, especially here in Italy, as well as a gateway to the future. After that, who can guess the job they will do or where they will go to live? And then those who have already learned to learn can go on to learning new and different things. Why not just give them this opportunity, this possibility? Let's give them the opportunity to enter this world and get it right. Learning things such as concepts or rules, as well as opportunities that we need to learn. Now we're beginning to see just what this is all about when we talk about schools and education.
Yes, indeed. Well, I'd like to remind you about one of the principles that we saw in the first episode of our course regarding the Italian Constitution. Do you remember? What did that principle say? Well, in a bit we'll see it on the screen in one of our summary charts. But for the moment, remember this principle and this idea. The Constitution says that the duty of the Republic is also to remove any barriers of an economic or social nature that can actually limit and prevent a person's full development and their effective participation in a political, economical, and social life.
So it seems clear that one of the main ways to remove these obstacles lies in schools, or rather ensuring that more and more children can attend schools, don't you think?
Yeah, of course. Otherwise, where would our children end up going if their parents have to go to work? It would be a disaster, wouldn't it? Not to mention that you can learn a job or a craft at school, or you can update and improve your position at work.
What were you saying, Adam, about there being another important fundamental principle of the Constitution to remember?
Yeah, that's something very important. The article containing the principle about schools and the education of our children. It's called Article 30, and it states that it is the duty and right of parents to support, instruct, and educate their children, even if born out of wedlock. You can see that here, as well as in all the other times we have spoken about the Constitution. By that I mean the basic principles. Do you remember in the first episode? When we speak about rights, we're actually speaking about duties too. It is a right to educate your children, as they have the right to it. But beware, it is also a duty. We have to do this so that we can guarantee that our children have a better future.
So we could say that the Constitution of the Italian Republic, its fundamental principles, not only say the Republic is founded on work, as we said in the last episode, but are also based on instruction and schools, couldn't we? On giving instruction and education to our children.
Absolutely. Let's take a look at this chart to help us remember these points. Family and children. It is the duty and right of parents to support, instruct and educate their children, even if born out of wedlock, Article 30 of the Constitution. All children are subject to compulsory education and entitled to enroll in schools of all levels, from Article 45 of the Presidential Republic Decree 397, 1999. Even if the school year has already started, all foreign students are entitled to enroll and attend school, even if their parents have no residence permit. Here you see that the first item in the Constitution regards the duty and the right to instruction. There has also been a recent decree that states that foreign minors, i.e. the children of immigrant citizens, have to attend school. This is compulsory. They also have the right to attend any type of school.
This article goes on to say two very important things, doesn't it?
Yes, the fact that being more than just an obligation, children actually have the right to join any type of school is important, as you might arrive in Italy when the school year has already begun, or if the student or the parents don't have a residence permit.
We should also remember that there are many documents, conventions, and international laws that affirm and underline the right to instruction. Just think of how important the Universal Declaration of Human Rights is, which was ratified by Italy. Article 26 states primary education shall be compulsory. Therefore, education is one of the fundamental and human rights of men and women. And remember that there are other articles in the Italian Constitution that insist on this point. Other than Article 30, which we saw earlier about the duty and right of parents to raise and educate their children, there is another important article that tells us that everybody, i.e. both Italian and non-Italian citizens, can go to school. And primary and secondary education is guaranteed free of cost, as much for foreign citizens as it is for Italians.
Well, let's look at another chart that summarizes these articles. The Italian Constitution, Education, Foreign Citizens and International Standards. Article 10. The Italian legal system conforms to the generally recognized rules of international law. The legal status of foreign citizens is regulated by law in conformity with international norms and treaties. Article 30. It is the duty and right of parents to support, instruct and educate their children, even if born out of wedlock. Article 31. The Republic protects maternity, infancy and youth, promoting the institutions necessary for such purposes. Article 34. Schools are open to everyone. Primary education, which is compulsory and free of charge, is provided for 8 years at least. Those capable and deserving have the right to reach the highest levels of education, even if they lack financial resources.
There is one particular item among these articles that relates to childhood and youth, as well as maternity. It states that the dimensions, or better, the ages of life, are protected by the Republic. This is very important. The Italian Republic protects young people, babies, and children during their growth, their experience, and their journey through life. First as adolescence, and then through their adult life, wherever they may come from in the world. It protects them through schools and education, places where they should learn and develop.
Yes, Karen, this is a very important point. There is also another point in Article 34, one that says that children who are good at school and deserve it have the right to reach the highest levels of study, i.e. university, even if they lack the financial means. In some particularly difficult cases, poorer families, especially those of immigrants, might not have the means to send their children all the way to university.
Yes, this is true, but remember what happened in Italy in the past. There have always been many immigrants, but they used to come from southern Italy and not from abroad. With sacrifices along the way and hard work in the factories of the northern cities, they managed to send their children to school. Speaking of which, let's take a look at the rules regarding Italian schools.
Okay, the Constitution speaks about schooling for lower education or primary education, which has to last 8 years at least. Current laws state that the scholastic obligation today is 10 years long. Children start at 6 years of age and continue until they are 16. The period of compulsory education is divided into 3 stages: primary school, what we call elementary school, secondary school, the so-called middle school, and lastly, the addition of the first 2 years of upper secondary school.
Why don't we take a look at the chart, Adam? That way we can remember everything.
Here is a summary table for compulsory education. We can see how compulsory education works here in Italy. The schools that everybody, and meaning absolutely everybody, has to attend. You will notice that there may be some differences between the school system and its rules and your home countries. For example, classes are no longer separated by gender and have been so for quite some time. Boys and girls both go to the same classes. This is how schools currently work here in Italy. So, to sum it all up, we have 5 years of primary school, lasting from ages 6 to 11, 3 years of secondary school, or middle school, from ages 11 to 14, and 2 years of upper secondary school, from ages 14 to 16, to comply with the compulsory years of education. These last 2 years have been recently added as to provide a guidance to children who do not want or cannot continue with their schooling. This way, before they enter the job market, they are given extra knowledge and a last little piece of education, which is useful, as we said earlier, as it is for finding a job. If they decide to continue and finish this type of school, they can then go on to university.
What about adults?
This is an important question. It would be great if adults too were able to take courses that wouldn't interfere with their commitments or job, so as to get at least a primary or secondary school diploma. In fact, ever since the agreement on integration became law, every foreign adult has to learn to speak a little Italian, otherwise they may risk having problems with their residence permit. This may seem severe, but it's a good idea to know how to speak Italian anyway. There are many opportunities for you to learn Italian. All you need to do is to find out where these courses are held. In fact, every city has many associations or organizations, sponsored or trade unions, schools or training centers, both public and private, that organize evening classes for foreign citizens and workers in order for them to get their diploma. This is a very important way to give foreign citizens a hand and an opportunity.
Everyone should understand just how important this is, both for living in and feeling a part of Italy, as well as a moment of personal growth for the improvement of your private and working life. As I said earlier, you might encounter problems regarding your work commitments, which won't allow you enough time to study or study at all. But in any case, it could be a great opportunity.
Yes, that's true.
There's another important issue we need to clarify and explain, Adam. What about younger children? We all know that once you've arrived in Italy and been fortunate enough to find a job, you usually leave the caring of younger children to your partner or relatives. But often it's not possible, even for Italians. What should the parents or guardians do in such cases? Where should they put or leave their children?
Well, this is another important point. Italy has many facilities, such as kindergartens and nurseries, where foreign citizens, including those recently arrived, can apply for a place to put their children. We should be clear that these types of schools are not compulsory.
Indeed. Let's go back to our chart.
Okay, let's read it. There are other possibilities for educational placements before primary school, which are not compulsory. Nursery school for 0 to 3-year-olds are not compulsory. It can be state or private education. Kindergarten school for 3 to 5-year-olds are not compulsory. Yes, let's read it and see that before primary school, a child can attend a nursery, which isn't compulsory, and then there is the preschool, which everyone knows as kindergarten. Again, it would be a great idea for your children to go there.
That's just what we were talking about, wasn't it? If children can go to a nursery and then to a kindergarten, they can learn how to be together with other people and get to know them.
Yes, Karen. Why don't we explain a little bit better just how schools work, starting off with schools for very young children and moving on from there?
Good idea, Adam. We're going to take a long, careful look, seeing as it's so important.
So far, we have said that primary school is for children of 6 to 11 years of age. Lower secondary or middle school is for children 11 to 14 years of age, and upper secondary school is for children of 14 to 18 years of age, although only the first 2 years are compulsory.
I'd like to add a little information about what happens before compulsory schooling, Adam. We said that before attending compulsory schooling, primary education, children who are aged between 0 to 3 years can also attend nursery. Nurseries are often municipal as well as private. Afterwards, children aged 3 to 5 years old can go to a kindergarten. This is not compulsory. Kindergartens are usually state, municipal, or private. Furthermore, this type of school is already a school unlike a nursery. A kindergarten pays particular attention to the first stage of educating a child, especially regarding their development, their growth rate, with particular attention to their emotional and physical development, and their ability to learn and know. Children who turn 3 years old by the 30th of April of the following year can enroll at a kindergarten.
That's right. As for mandatory school enrollment, children are enrolled in the class that corresponds to their age, except for particular cases decided on by their teachers, the faculty, based on factors such as those relating to a different scholastic organization in their home country or the evaluation of the child's aptitude.
But there are some differences regarding the types of schools, aren't there? Let's take a look at them. I think I'll start off with the schools for the youngest children, primary or elementary schools. These can be either state or private schools. Children who turn 6 years old by the 31st of December of the school year can enroll. This school lasts 5 years. Children who have not yet turned 6 years of age can also enroll in the first year of primary school, but only if they turn 6 by the 30th of April of the following scholastic year.
It's important to know something here, Karen. Primary school and the books for the classes are free. However, the child's family should provide all their school supplies, such as pens, pencils, notebooks, etc.
What about the subjects our children learn at primary school? What do they teach there?
Well, first of all, they learn a foreign language from the European Union, which primarily is English, as you can imagine.
But what if a child has cousins or relatives in another European country, say France, for example?
Well, in this case, a family can opt for the teaching of another European language.
It's very important for our children to begin studying another language apart from their mother tongue early on, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. They also study the traditional subjects, each as important as the others, such as mathematics, science, history, geography, and Italian. Then music and art, followed by computer sciences and social studies as the years progress. Religion is optional.
Of course, since children from abroad come from many different types of cultures and religions.
This is true. I'd also like to add that there is no longer an exam for moving from primary school to secondary school or middle school. We should also remember that classes are usually made up of about 26 students by primary school.
Adam, how about looking at a chart with a few of the rules? What about school enrollment, for example? As we said before, there are always a lot of things to remember, aren't there?
Okay then, let's take a look. This chart explains what you have to do to enroll a child in their first school. We've already mentioned the time limit for enrolling your child, haven't we?
By the 31st of December of the scholastic year. Be careful not to forget it.
We said that in order to enroll your child at a primary school, you should apply by filling out the forms at the secretary's office of the school where you want to send your child. However, be careful. You have to bring a range of certificates and documents with you. Your residence certificate, date of birth certificate, and family status certificate. Such documents, by current law, Italian law, can be replaced with a self-certification, as well as a vaccination certificate. Well, as we were saying, in order to remember this all a little better, here is another chart. Primary school enrollment. In order to enroll your child in school, the parent or guardian should apply to the school secretary and fill out the necessary forms. The documents required for enrollment are birth certificate, residence certificate, family status certificate, and these can be substituted by self-certification. Also, you need to bring a vaccination certificate. If you don't have a vaccination certificate, please contact your local health unit. School records translated and validated by the Italian consulate in your home country are also necessary. Here you see that there are other important documents to bring with you. If the child hasn't had their vaccination or doesn't have a document to certify it, you will have to visit your local health clinic and ask for one. Another important thing, you are required to provide any school records from your home country, accompanied by a translation which has been validated by the consulate in your home country.
Right. So we have to remember these documents too and deliver them to the school secretary. What should we do if some of the documents are missing, Adam? Your child should still enroll, shouldn't they?
Well, yes, indeed. Should a document be missing, their parent can say which classes their child attended in their home country, which the parent will be held responsible for. In any case, the child has to be enrolled.
What happens when you enroll?
The parents, or the people who have parental authority, should the parents be missing, have to choose which type of school to send them to by filling out the forms. They also have to choose whether or not the child studies the teachings of the Catholic religion. Other educational and training activities can be chosen as an alternative with the assistance of a teacher. There are other important and useful things as well to choose, such as joining the school bus program if you live far from school. This is not free. Or more importantly, choosing whether to enroll in preschool or postschool.
This is very important, especially if both parents work. Otherwise, everything gets much more complicated, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. Applying for school lunches at the school canteen is important too. There is a special form you need to fill out for this.
Seeing as you have to pay for the school canteen, are there any reductions or discounts for families on low income?
Well, you can ask for a reduction of the school fees regarding the school canteen or refectory by presenting a form of self-certification regarding your family's income. Don't forget that you will also need to present the identity card or passport of the parent enrolling the child. We've forgotten one thing, Karen. The completion of these forms can be done either directly at the school or at other offices that deal with schooling, such as the school office or your local council.
It's always better to ask for information from the school secretary, the school office, or at other offices that deal with education in the area where you live. Adam, I'd like us to deal with an important issue that's quite general in scope, the reception and acceptance of our children. There are quite some differences between different towns and parts of Italy, differences in how they are organized. What I mean is just how schools go about organizing the acceptance of foreign children.
Yeah, that's true. Some places have different ways of going about it.
Because acceptance shouldn't be thought of as just a value or the goodness of people, or whether there are people willing and open to foreigners coming to Italy. Naturally, this is part of it, but acceptance and indeed a welcoming on the part of the school should be something institutional tied to the proper functioning of the organization of schools. And therefore, the other institutions in Italy, if that's the case, then we should have precise procedures with a specific program.
I agree, Karen. One thing shouldn't exclude the other. A positive attitude towards foreigners arriving in Italy should be part of the way institutions work in Italy, which naturally includes the organization of schools. In short, there should be projects and organizations that work and are responsible for this, running behind everything.
May I add that schools and institutions that function well are what creates this welcome.
It's for this very reason that in many schools you may find a teacher or committee of teachers in charge of following the careful insertion of foreign children into our schools. Step by step, they assess the different situations and problems foreign children may face during the various phases of their insertion and integration.
A question comes to mind here. What about languages? How do you address the language problem?
Clearly, this is one of the main problems. All European countries, some earlier than others, have had a long tradition of immigration, such as France, Germany and England, have long since been taking action regarding the language problem. How should the host country language be taught as a second language to foreign children?
It should be taken into account that the changes regarding immigration in Italy have happened much quicker than in the other European countries we spoke about. So Italian schools quickly went about transforming themselves and proposing new methods. For example, many schools set up Italian courses as second language or linguistic and cultural mediation centers for families.
I think we should show just how quick was the change regarding the integration of foreign children into Italian schools, most of which happened in central and northern Italy. Do you remember the details in our first lesson? Here we want to show you two new charts. One that shows the trends in the percentage increase of children in Italian schools who don't have an Italian citizenship over the last few years. This data from the Ministry of Education stops in 2007. Just think how much this chart has increased in the last 4 years.
If you're interested, you can visit the website of the Italian Ministry of Education to find out other information that might be useful. There's still one more chart to look at. This chart shows you the Universal Declaration of Human Rights that we talked about earlier. Universal Declaration of Human Rights, 1948, Article 2. Each individual is entitled to all rights and freedoms set forth in this declaration, without any distinction of race, color, gender, language, opinion, public or otherwise, social or national origin, wealth, birth, or other status. Convention on the Rights of Children, 1989, Article 2, ratified in Italy in 1991. Member states undertake to respect the rights set forth in this convention and to guarantee them to every child within their jurisdiction, without distinction of race, color, gender, language, religion, opinion, public, or otherwise. Although they seem a little bit abstract, they actually tell us something quite important. Again, we talked about it in our first episode, but we'd like to emphasize it once more. We want to underline how this right for schooling and an education is a universal right for everybody, recognized at an international level by many countries party to these international conventions. The reason why we wanted to incorporate these more general ideas was to emphasize once more that schools are where these ideas become a reality, where we really have the chance to involve children and parents and help them wherever they may come from.
And the schools should in practice try to keep their promises to the children and their parents and their future. However, in practice, things don't always work out this way in schools. So let's go back to the rules and what you need to do. Earlier, we saw how to enroll. Now let's take a look at the school calendar and the organization of the scholastic year. The scholastic year in Italy lasts about 9 months. It starts towards the middle of September and finishes in the first or second week of June. It differs slightly depending on the region where you enroll your child. There are 2 holiday periods, 2 weeks at Christmas, usually from the 23rd of December until the 6th of January, and about a week at Easter in March or April. Other holidays are distributed throughout the year and in some cases depend on the territory, such as for patron saints festivals. The school will inform you of these dates on your children's diary. For the school's attendance schedule, you should make sure to ask at the secretary's office. It's important to know and learn about the schedule and calendar, as it can be quite different from the one in your home country.
Another important point which we should all remember from when we went to school was the relationship with the teachers should you require any information or to learn about your child's progress at school, or if there's any problem.
Yes, indeed, this is another important thing to bear in mind, especially regarding school absences. Remember that any absence from school by your child has to be justified via communication to the teachers or written in the notebook, diary or justification book that the school supplies you with. Remember that if a child stays at home for a period longer than 6 days, the school requires a medical certificate for their return.
But what should you do if you require a long absence from school? For example, what if you need to make a trip back to your home country to visit relatives?
Well, for family reasons, all you need to do is contact the school and tell them. However, it's very important to ask the school what the time limit is for absences. If you exceed the time limit, then the school year is no longer valid.
Things may seem simple or a bit taken for granted to be included in a TV program and a course like ours. However, think just how complicated things can get when parents are not careful and fail to follow these things. Maybe a family wishes to return to their home country for a bit and forgets to notify the school or something similar. Though these rules are quite simple, they have to be followed. We want our reception in Italy to work, so we have to follow these rules and help the school function correctly.
That's right. Let's take a step back a second. Earlier we spoke about nurseries and kindergartens and how they are not compulsory, though they are important for families just the same. Speaking of which, the case of my friend Jamie comes to mind and his family and their 2 children.
What happened to them?
Well, they didn't remember, or they might not have known, that there are lists at your local council where they could sign up for a place for one of their children. They risked not having a place for their child at their nursery.
That's true. This example demonstrates just how useful it is to insist how important it is to get as much information as possible. Ask early on for information. Don't leave it until the last minute. You can ask for information at the school's office or the Public Relations Office, URP, of your local council, or you can look on your local council's website or on the websites of those offices. Why don't we take a look at the Ministry of Education's website regarding schools? Let's show once more some of the website addresses useful for getting extra information.
Yeah, why not? Here we have another chart with these website addresses. Okay, so useful website addresses for information about schools and education. www.pubblica.istruzione.it/digistudente/intercultura. The section on interculture by the Ministry of Education guidelines on the inclusion of foreign students and reference standards. www.scuolaer.it, the portal for schools in the Emilia-Romagna region, has a special section dedicated to the regional, national and European legislation in school subjects, education and integration. www.meltingpot.org, the homepage for the European Melting Pot for the promotion of citizenship rights with a section dedicated to Italian legislation. www.comune.bologna.it/istruzione/cd-lei/index.php. The CDLEI Intercultura Documentation Center of the Council of Bologna offers online materials for a successful integration, forms for communicating between schools and families translated into 13 languages.
Great, Adam. Let's go back to something rather important that we mentioned earlier. We spoke about the first contact with the school. Besides communicating the reasons for any absences or a medical certificate for any illness, or even any long absences due to a trip, etc., we spoke about the relationship with the school and especially with the teachers. This is really important, isn't it?
Yeah. Yes, it is. We should remember that the school organizes meetings between parents and their teachers during the scholastic year. Furthermore, parents are also given progress reports. These are all important opportunities to get to know the teachers, the school, and to see how it is organized and how it works.
This is really important because it deals with the meeting between parents and the school, and therefore the inclusion and integration of the students. What's more, parents can also ask for a meeting to talk with the teachers. Remember that the normal way of communicating between teachers and parents is via the progress report, which has recently seen some changes. It used to be called the report card. We can see an example in the following image. Here it is. As you see, it is a way to describe and evaluate the results and activity that the student performs at school. All of this information comes to the parents. However, it is really important that the parents go to meetings with teachers to better understand and help their children to fit in better at school. Let's try to describe and talk a little about the other schools. What happens after primary or elementary school? Adam?
Well, once primary school is ended, you move on to lower secondary school or middle school. This school welcomes children from ages 11 to 14 and lasts 3 years. The expected total number of hours is approximately 30 hours per week. Families have to provide books and teaching materials recommended by the school at their own expense. You should also expect to pay school taxes.
I think that we're right in saying that this school acts as a bridge. Primary school acts as a welcoming, a school made in such a way that children can acquire basic tools and get support in all their activities. Whether it's in learning, the development of each child's abilities, or even in the teamwork and being with others. Middle school is something quite different though, isn't it, Adam?
Well, yes, secondary school continues the subjects already addressed in primary school, but goes further into them and expands them, which clearly makes it much more specialized. Here we learn Italian literature and Italian language, geography, history, civic studies, 2 languages from the European Union, which one is English, mathematics, chemistry, natural sciences, computer sciences, art, music, physical education, and as an option, the Catholic religion. At the end of the 3 years, the pupils have to pass an exam to get their middle school diploma, which allows them to continue into upper secondary school or high school.
After this cycle of study, pupils find themselves facing their first leap into adulthood, don't they?
That's right. Here's where they begin their enrollment for upper secondary school or high school. This type of school includes pupils of 14 to 18 years old. Remember that a new reform came into force with the 2010-2011 scholastic year for the second cycle of education. This reform includes new schools, new technical institutes, and new vocational schools that differ in subjects according to the path the pupil chooses.
You should also remember that the first 2 years of this school are compulsory. They are part of the compulsory education we spoke about at the beginning of today's episode. 2 other important matters directly linked to secondary school and pupils without Italian citizenship coming from other countries come into question, don't they? The first is enrollment.
Yeah, this is right. Imagine that your children have already attended elementary and middle school, or primary in the first part of the secondary school, in your home country. In this case, you have to submit a declaration that attests to the child having attended at least 8 years of school in their home country, equivalent to the first cycle of education, which means primary school and the first part of secondary school.
What type of document do you need?
It's called a letter of accreditation. It's an official document translated into Italian that provides information about the educational qualifications obtained abroad. This document is issued by an Italian diplomatic representation abroad, embassies or consulates. Remember that a letter of accreditation is not an educational qualification, but a document whose purpose is to describe the accreditation of an educational qualification given in their home country.
There's a second important matter linked to this. Let's imagine that a student who is not an Italian citizen asks for admittance to high school, upper secondary school, but has no educational qualification from an Italian middle school, lower secondary school. What should they do in this case?
Well, in this case, another kind of structure comes into play, particularly the CPIA, the Provincial Centre for Adult Education, or better known as CTP, the Permanent Territorial Centres. These structures deal with adult education and training, which you can apply for after your 16th birthday. Any citizen possessing the documents required by law can enroll in these courses.
I can imagine how important they are, but what does this have to do with the certificate and enrollment for our children in schools?
Well, as long as the high school agrees, a student can obtain their middle school diploma at one of these centres while they are studying at high school.
So you can also get your middle school diploma this way?
Yes. It's an important and useful point as the student can begin high school immediately.
Furthermore, remember that your middle school diploma is important for other reasons as well. Remember its real name too, the study diploma of the first cycle of secondary school.
Yes, that's right. It allows you to avoid taking the language test, which you need for your long-term residence permit card. Do you remember the episode when we spoke about matters regarding your entry into Italy, your residence permit and your long-term residence permit card?
I do.
Well, what's more, this diploma is clearly useful when you start looking for a job.
Adam, we're soon coming to the end of our 4th episode. Even though we've given you a lot of information concerning schools and spoken about lots of different things, we still need to make a couple of points which we have only just touched on.
Yes, one matter that doesn't have anything to do directly with schools, and more so with training, but does concern many foreign citizens, the language test. We mentioned it a few minutes ago, but what is it precisely?
Yes, one matter that doesn't have anything to do directly with schools and more so with training, but does concern many foreign citizens, the language test. We mentioned it a few minutes ago, but what is it precisely?
Well, this came into practice quite recently, since the 9th of December 2010. Basically, all foreign nationals who want to apply for a long-term residence permit have to pass an Italian language test. The Permanent Territorial Centres, the CTP, for training offer a number of various courses, including Italian language courses. These courses are specifically aimed at people who have to pass this test, and in fact it can be a substitute for the test.
This information is useful indeed. Seeing as we're speaking about language tests, let's take this opportunity to explain it a little more. We said that foreign citizens have to pass the test if they want to apply for a long-term residence permit. However, people in some categories needn't take the test.
That's right. People who are exempt from this test are children under 14 years of age, people who already possess a level A2 Italian language proficiency certificate.
Sorry, what is a level A2 Italian language proficiency certificate?
Well, in November 2001, a European Council resolution recommended the use of the QCER for defining the parameters used in evaluating a student's linguistic ability. In English, it is called the CEFR, which stands for the Common European Framework of Reference for Languages. It represents a guideline to describe the results achieved by those studying foreign languages in Europe. QCER has 6 reference levels, A1, A2, B1, B2, C1 and C2. They are widely accepted as benchmarks for evaluating an individual's proficiency level. So A2 is a proficiency level.
Okay, so let's go back to the language test and who shouldn't take it.
We said that children under 14 years of age and people who already have an A2 Italian language proficiency level need not take the test. The A2 Italian language proficiency level is issued by one of the 4 agencies recognized by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the Ministry of Education, Universities and Research. The 4 institutions are the University for Foreigners in Perugia, the University for Foreigners in Siena, Roma Tre University and the Dante Alighieri Cultural Society. So people who already have attended a course in Italian at a CTP or who have already been issued an A2 Italian language proficiency certificate needn't do it. As well as people who entered Italy under the Act of Article 27 as a manager, university professor, interpreter or journalist. Moreover, those who are attending a study course at an Italian university or private university recognized by the government or attending a master's degree or a PhD needn't do the test. And finally, those who have graduated from lower or upper secondary school at a school belonging to the Italian system of education or the CTP needn't take the test.
Seeing as it's something new and important, we need to summarize this. Let's show this in one of our charts. What is the Italian language test? The test aims to identify the Italian language proficiency level of those who intend to apply for the issue of a long-term residence permit. Decree of 4th June 2010 by the Ministry of the Interior. Who should take the test? Foreign citizens legally residing in Italy for at least 5 years, who already hold a valid residence permit and are at least 14 years of age. Since when has it been compulsory to take the test? It has been necessary to take the Italian language test since the 9th of December 2010. How should I go about taking the test? The foreign citizen should go to their local prefecture with territorial jurisdiction for your home address and present your application for participation in the test accessed via the web address http://testitaliano.interno.it. The prefecture will notify the foreign citizen by post within 70 days of their application as to the date, time, and place of their Italian language test. Candidates must reach 80% of the total score to pass the test. The foreign citizen must go to the place indicated in the invitation letter, bringing with them the invitation letter and proof of identity. The test is structured on the comprehension of short texts, phrases, and expressions frequently used. If the test result is positive, or if the foreign citizen demonstrates that they already have a good knowledge of Italian, they may submit their application. The Questura will then issue a long-term EC residence permit should all other requirements be in order.
Well, that all seems clear enough, but I think there was one more point we had to mention, wasn't there?
Absolutely. Adult training. We mentioned it at the beginning of our episode. Other than the fact that every foreigner should know how to speak Italian for their daily life and work, as well as avoiding the risk of having problems with their residence permit, being trained or having a study diploma seems like a pretty important last point to make. At least a primary or secondary school diploma. Don't you agree?
Yes, that's true. We should remember that foreign citizens over 16 years of age can enroll in education courses at a CTP permanent territorial centres, adult education and training centres. Foreign citizens in possession of the correct documents required under the current law, proof of identity and a legitimate residence permit, are allowed to enroll. Enrollments are open all year round. You can get your middle school diploma at a CTP, which you require should you wish to continue your studies or to sign up for vocational training. In addition, the CTPs offer training facilities according to the needs and characteristics of the different territories. For example, Italian languages courses, computer courses, cultural training initiatives, and professional interest courses related to the requirements and job offers typical of that territory.
Well, Adam, it seems that we've talked about a lot of things once more, haven't we? I don't know if that's everything, but it seems like we've touched on the main points. We've spoken about the types of schools, how to enroll, the regulations, the documentation, adult training, and language tests. Is there anything else? So, remember then that school, education, and training are important for the lives of everyone and especially for the future of our children. So send them to school then.
I absolutely agree with you. I think it's time to say goodbye, and we'll see you all in our next episode, which is the last of our series. So see you then.
Bye-bye until then.